Welcome back, everybody. It's John Pollock here alongside Jimmy Korderas, as always, heading into the WWE's TLC event, the second to final pay-per-view event of 2016 on the WWE calendar, as we have a SmackDown and Raw event to close out the December month, Jimmy. Yeah. And a very quick turnaround here for the SmackDown side. 2 weeks since Survivor Series. Yeah. How do you think they handled this in terms of 2 episodes to build up this card?
I mean, I'm okay with it. The question marks are all the little things, like how's James Ellsworth going to fit into the pay-per-view, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and trying to plant seeds. But it did feel a little rushed. I'm an old school guy. I like to see the extended build and taking time and developing.
That's what I really like about the Rumble this year, is that you've announced the 2 key guys in the Rumble, and we're 2 months out from that show.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden, as I like to say, your hamster starts turning and you're thinking of possibilities. When pay-per-views are so staggered, so close together, there's not enough time for that hamster to get on his wheel and start running. So it's like, bang, bang, it's rapid fire.
As this was more during the first brand split. It always used to be, rather than the idea that, well, we have 2 months to build up our next brand-specific pay-per-view, they really didn't want to get into the habit of promoting 2 shows at once. But sort of by necessity, you have to do that now with Roadblock and TLC. Do you see that as a problem, or do you feel that within the body of Raw and SmackDown, they should be promoting their next show regardless of what the other brand has coming up?
I think that's, it's changed with the business model of the WWE Network. If it was a pay-per-view driven business...
You're right. You're not buying an individual show.
Exactly. So to them, it's not as difficult to promote something on their own network, because basically you have your subscribers, your base subscribers there. You're trying to obviously add more subscribers, and they're doing so in a sense where they offer free months here and there during promotional packages. But as far as people complaining about Raw brand advertising for the SmackDown, it's the same company under the same umbrella. So that's a dumb argument to make, guys. But I think in this environment, personally, for me, I would have preferred staggering the months like they did before with the original brand split, where, let's say, you got your big 4 pay-per-views, which are joint, but February would be Raw. Let's say March would be SmackDown, then WrestleMania's everybody. Just stagger it that way. It's a lot of content. Again, that's the problem. A lot of content.
And we've got a lot of stipulation matches coming up on Sunday, starting with the TLC match as AJ Styles takes on Dean Ambrose in the main event. You mentioned James Ellsworth. I don't think this guy should be at all involved in this from a physical standpoint after a big injury angle that they did on SmackDown this week, where you did the ambulance job. To see him run out in a neck brace or a body cast, I think it would make this a complete joke. So I'm really hopeful they keep Ellsworth off of this show and then follow up with the AJ match down the road, which I believe is what it will be, and AJ keeps the title here.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's what I would like to see, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that he's going to come out with possibly this, when your arm is propped up with that thing, and I think it's going to be ridiculous, and that's going to take away from the fact that I think these 2 guys are going to have a fabulous TLC match, and they're going to put their bodies on the line. And
I think AJ needs to have that kind of a war, that big match, because he's given a lot in this Ellsworth program, and I think he just kills Ellsworth in the eventual title match, because you have to really heat up AJ, in my opinion, for WrestleMania season, whatever happens at the Rumble. If the idea of a Styles-Taker match is where they're going, you really need to heat this guy up as the top guy on SmackDown, and that should be beating Ambrose and murdering Ellsworth.
Yeah, but again, there's that fear again with having Ellsworth in the mix. Somewhere down the line, I could almost see somebody in creative pitching the idea going, we should make James Ellsworth AJ Styles Ralphus. I could see, I know it's there. Somebody's throwing it out there and somebody's going to go, you know what, that's a great idea. And I'm thinking, no, please don't.
Where are you at on the James Ellsworth character? Has it reached its peak? Is there still more to be done with him?
Yeah, Fonzie's on the other side of the shark by now. Well, for me anyways. Yeah.
For many people, I would say at this point. I mean, the guy is certainly over at this point, but it's definitely, there's a shelf life to this character.
How much more can you do with the idea of someone bucking all the odds and making it onto the SmackDown roster, blah, 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 and all that stuff? There's only so much you can do with it before he becomes maybe a Gilbert or something like that.
As we move on down, as we mentioned, many different stipulation matches. We also have a ladder match with The Miz and Dolph Ziggler that they are promoting as the final encounter between these two. Somehow, I envision these two will meet again at some point. But for the meantime, I think this feud ends, and I think The Miz should keep the Intercontinental title at this point. And this match and the main event, the TLC match, these are, to me, the two strongest matches going in that you can have expectations for.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Ziggler's going to have his bumping shoes on, and
they'll get a lot of time as well on this show.
Yeah, and I'm almost afraid for him because knowing how he performs, and he's one of those people who says whether it's 30 seconds or 30 minutes, you know, you take advantage.
He's going 300 miles an hour.
Yeah, and that's what scares me about this match. If he takes his time and they don't go too outrageous with the ladder, I think they don't need to, because these two guys are good enough where they could pull it off without going stupid. Let's put it that way.
You also have to differentiate those two matches because they're going to be built around ladders in both matches, and you don't want to make them the same, where I could see one being very much stunt-oriented and one maybe more where it's just working a very physical match around a ladder as more of a weapon. So I think they should also be separate on the card. Not to say Miz and Ziggler open the show, but enough distance between the two matches.
But I could also see that happening. I could see them bookending the pay-per-view with that one opening the pay-per-view proper. We don't know what the pre-show and how long it's going to be, but
of course, we're getting our at least hour, Jimmy, for the kickoff. Chairs match involving Baron Corbin and Kalisto. The dreaded chairs match. No stairs match this year.
No, it just they left out the stairs. I almost feel
kickoff show, Jimmy. We still have time.
Well, that's a good point. Tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs.
It would be It would be nice if they could have some stairs there to elevate somebody with the use of James Ellsworth taking that from a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I guess this match, simple win for Baron Corbin. Is that what you assume?
I think so. I think there's going to be a few hope spots involving a chair, obviously, but I think this is more designed to make Baron Corbin look like a dastardly heel who, in essence, really doesn't need a chair to beat the crap out of Kalisto, but does so anyways. And it's kind of like an old school thought process. And with Baron Corbin, I think it works. And he needs something. He needs to get past Kalisto and get into a feud with somebody who actually can help elevate him.
Yeah, there isn't that obvious guy because they are so depleted with baby faces on SmackDown at the moment. When you've turned Randy Orton, I mean, by necessity, that's, I think, why James Ellsworth is in the position he's in. It's just you have Ambrose, you have James Ellsworth, and Dolph Ziggler as your top baby faces in the absence of John Cena, where Undertaker is not a regular character. That's a side that they really struggle with on SmackDown.
Yeah, and I hate to say it because I'm a big fan of Kane. I always thought he was really great as the Kane character, as the demon character. But I think, I hate to say it, it's run its course. So, in a perfect world, he would have been the obvious choice to help elevate Baron Corbin, but I don't think the fans are buying into Kane anymore. That's the problem.
Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss will have a tables match, which seems geared around Alexa winning the title without beating Becky. Alexa, I think, has done a pretty good job since the brand split, has been one of those performers that has used the platform, gotten more minutes as a result of it. So I could certainly see a title change in this situation.
Yeah, again, there's that old school mentality where you can beat the champion without actually beating the champion. The one thing that has impressed me about Alexa Bliss is her work on the microphone, and that's the hardest part for any superstar. To become a complete package, you have to have that ability on the microphone to connect with an audience and sound like you're not reading off a script and sounding like you're authentic. And that's
Which
the one
some
thing.
very much struggle with.
Yeah, and I think the women on SmackDown actually excel at that part of their game over the women on Raw.
I thought Alexa and Carmella were real standouts on this week's show, at least. And that brings us. Carmella and Nikki Bella have a no disqualification match. This has been a long feud for the two. And Carmella, while in ring, I think she's certainly limited. Her personality has been coming through slowly but surely with this heel character as well. You're seeing a much more well-rounded, I think, women's division on SmackDown.
Yeah. And
this match, being that it's no DQ, I think you can work in a lot of bells and whistles into the match to work around the limitations of a Carmella.
Absolutely. And again, as far as who wins in this one, Carmella's the one who obviously can benefit most from a win over someone like a Nikki Bella. Again, I agree with you. I think the women on SmackDown have excelled further than the women on Raw. The women on Raw are performing in ring their matches in ring have been really good. It's just that overall picture, the overall character development and stuff like that has been lacking, save maybe Charlotte, who's excelling as a heel, but at times, you know, her presentation on the mic does feel a little scripted.
Mm-hmm. And rounding out the card on Sunday in Dallas, we have the tag title match with Heath Slater and Rhyno taking on Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. Now that we've had some time with Randy Orton, I think it's somewhat revitalized the Wyatt family. I thought this was an act that was just, it kind of just served very little point on as a unit with Bray Wyatt, who just felt like he was stuck in this one gear with that character. And Randy Orton, I think, has added something to it. I don't think long-term this is something Orton needs to be attached with, but for the short term, I certainly see them putting the tag titles on them and elevating those tag titles, which I think they were put on Slater and Rhyno as like they were hot for that month and kind of comedy titles, which I think you want to get that away from.
I hate to refer to people as transitional champions, but that's what it felt like with Slater and Rhyno, and the reason they've kept it so long is because that comedy act had been working. And with Randy Orton joining the Wyatt family, I think, you know, I'm sure you would think this. We've been waiting for the Bray Wyatt to break out to that next stratosphere. You know, as far as a character goes, he's fantastic. I think his in-ring work is fine. There was just something lacking with his booking that at least in the minds of the audience was not connecting. And now with Randy Orton joining the family, maybe he's that one established guy, that piece of the puzzle that maybe helps elevate the entire Wyatt family, because you get a guy like Luke Harper too, who's, again, in my opinion, very underutilized as a talent, because the guy, for me, for a big man, is phenomenal. Maybe Randy Orton is that guy to propel the Wyatt family to the next level, and down the road, again, here's the hamster running on the wheel. Maybe it's Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt over control of the Wyatt family down the road, and maybe that's where Wyatt finally, you know, leaps into that next level. Yeah,
and you got the sense they're definitely working something with Randy Orton and Luke Harper, kind of teasing that, which one has the ear of Bray Wyatt, so to speak. So that's all we have for TLC. They've announced 6 matches. I would expect some more, given the kickoff show. Not the deepest roster, though. I mean, you kind of have to maximize the roster you've got at the moment. So that is where we head in there. And as we end things off, Jimmy, as you kind of put on your prognostication cap and look ahead to Royal Rumble and beyond, even to WrestleMania. I mean, what do you see as the title program on the SmackDown side, and where the likes of John Cena and The Undertaker fit in as you're looking at this roster and where they can fit, whether it's together or separate?
It's interesting because you mentioned earlier the possible AJ Styles Undertaker confrontation at WrestleMania, which I think
or at the Rumble,
which would be phenomenal because no pun intended. Because AJ Styles is the type of guy you can put in there with The Undertaker and
that'd be a really interesting match to watch.
And Undertaker through the years has been a guy who could work with anybody of any size. And
doubtful he would take a Styles clash, but we've been shocked before.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we're going to see a Styles clash, but still, at the same time, I think AJ Styles and him can have a great match with good psychology. And that being said, I also could see him having a great match with good psychology with someone like a John Cena, who is definitely underrated in those types of matches. That would be a different style of match, obviously. But as far as a Rumble goes, the interesting, like you brought up earlier, we've got Goldberg and Brock Lesnar now, both entered into the Rumble. It's an interesting dynamic because he did mention title run in his last promo, and I could see it possibly working for someone like a Goldberg because, like you said before, he's so over organically as a babyface that a title run for him could make sense and get over with the audience. That being said, I would rather that not be the case going into WrestleMania. If he makes it into the Rumble match, because I'm kind of seeing that maybe he doesn't actually make it into the match and gets Pearl Harbored as the old school.
You mean like on the way to the ring or something like that?
Brock just comes out and just decimates him in retaliation, and that leads to their program at WrestleMania.
Yeah, there's many avenues you can go, certainly on the Raw side. And SmackDown, I think it's all going to be a key of, how much involvement The Undertaker is going to have over the next couple of months, John Cena's return, some interesting elements as we head into the last part of 2016.
But by the same token, again, fast forwarding, thinking up to WrestleMania, and I think I mentioned this before, where it seems like Undertaker planted that seed when he returned on SmackDown, saying that WrestleMania is not going to define him. He's back, and he's basically ruling his yard on SmackDown because SmackDown was his show. Well, John Cena may have something to say about it. Maybe that's the program leading to WrestleMania. So.
Yes, definitely. And I think you can definitely expect him, you would assume, at the Rumble.
Yeah.
So that is going to wrap it up for us. That is TLC. It's happening this Sunday night from Dallas, Texas. And you can catch Jimmy Korderas and his scarf on Twitter Sunday night at Jimmy Korderas, always interacting with you, the people.
This was $7.50. Sip it in, man.
There, moving a few decimal points off. We will be live with The Law, live audio wrestling Sunday night at midnight Eastern, and you can follow us at Law Radio.